Imagine living in a community that helps feed the entire country, yet suddenly finding it harder to feed your own family. This is the reality facing a small town in Florida called Immokalee. Located in Collier County, Immokalee is home to around 25,000 people, many of them farm workers who harvest the tomatoes, peppers, and citrus fruits that eventually end up on grocery store shelves across America. It is a community that produces food for millions of people, but many of the people who grow that food struggle to access affordable groceries themselves. In October 2025, the town lost its only full-service grocery store, Winn-Dixie. The store did not move. It was not replaced. It simply closed its doors. And when that happened, residents were left with very limited choices. Many now depend on small convenience stores and local markets for their groceries. These stores often have little fresh produce, fewer affordable protein options, and prices that are much higher than what shoppers would normally pay at a traditional supermarket. The people who spend their days harvesting America's food now have to travel farther to buy food for their own families. And Immokalee is not alone. Across the country, communities are experiencing a wave of grocery store closures that is changing the way millions of Americans shop for food. In 2026, several major grocery chains are reducing their footprints at the same time. Kroger, one of the largest grocery companies in America, has announced plans to close dozens of stores. Stop & Shop is closing locations across the Northeast. Save-A-Lot, a discount grocery chain that serves many lower-income communities, has also lost stores. Albertsons locations are facing closures as competition continues to increase. These closures are not just about empty buildings. A grocery store is more than a place to buy food. It is part of a community's infrastructure. When a grocery store disappears, people lose access to affordable fresh food, local jobs, and a convenient place to meet their everyday needs. Today, we are looking at why this is happening, who is affected, and what it means for the future of food access in America. Most importantly, we need to talk about why building a well-prepared pantry has become more important than ever. Because the reality is simple. We cannot always control whether a store stays open, but we can control how prepared we are. The first major chain facing significant changes is Kroger. Kroger operates thousands of supermarkets across the country under many different names. Some people shop at Kroger-owned stores every week without even realizing they are part of the same company. These include names like Fred Meyer, Fry's Food and Drug, Harris Teeter, King Soopers, Mariano's, Pick and Save, Ralph's, and others. The company has announced a major store closure plan, with dozens of locations expected to shut down across multiple states. The reason given is profitability. Stores that are not producing strong enough financial results are being closed so the company can focus resources on stronger performing locations. But what happens to the communities left behind? In some areas, customers are redirected to another store nearby. But in rural communities and smaller towns, the next grocery option may be many miles away. That difference matters. For someone with reliable transportation, driving an extra 15 or 20 minutes may feel like an inconvenience. For someone without a vehicle, an elderly person, or a family with limited income, it can completely change how they access food. Stop & Shop is another example of this changing grocery landscape. The company, which has served communities in the Northeast for more than a century, has announced dozens of store closures. Locations across states including Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, and Rhode Island are being affected. The company has explained that these decisions are necessary to improve its long-term position. But for the customers who depended on those stores, the impact is immediate. They must find another place to shop, adjust their budgets, and sometimes travel much farther just to buy basic groceries. Then there is Save-A-Lot. This is the closure story that deserves special attention because of the communities it serves. Save-A-Lot built its reputation around affordable groceries. Many of its stores were located in areas where large supermarkets were not always available. For many families, Save-A-Lot was not just another grocery store. It was the affordable grocery store. It was the place where people could find lower-cost meat, produce, and household essentials without traveling long distances. When a Save-A-Lot closes in a low-income or rural area, another large supermarket does not always come in to replace it. Instead, people often turn to convenience stores and small markets where choices are limited and prices are higher. This is exactly what happened after Winn-Dixie closed in Immokalee. A community that already had limited options suddenly had even fewer. This is what experts call a grocery desert. A grocery desert is an area where people have limited access to affordable, healthy food. especially in low-income communities. The problem is not simply that a store closes. The problem is what replaces it. A grocery store allows people to compare prices, choose between brands, buy fresh ingredients, and plan meals based on their family's needs. A convenience store cannot provide the same experience. Food assistance programs and community food distributions can help during emergencies, but they are not the same as having a reliable grocery store. A food distribution is a safety net. A grocery store is part of a functioning food system. The health effects of losing grocery access are also significant. When fresh fruits, vegetables, and affordable proteins become harder to reach, families over time, researchers have connected limited food access with higher risks of diet-related health problems, including diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. This is why grocery store closures are not just an economic issue. They are a health issue. They are a community issue. They are a daily life issue. So why are these closures happening across multiple companies at the same time? One major reason is competition. Large retailers like Walmart, Costco, and Target have expanded their grocery operations and gained a significant share of the market. These companies have enormous buying power. They sell groceries alongside thousands of other products, from household items to electronics to automotive supplies. That scale allows them to compete aggressively on prices. Traditional grocery stores do not always have the same advantage. They still face the same costs: employees, rent, utilities, transportation, and inventory. When customer traffic declines and sales fall, some stores become financially impossible to maintain. The result is consolidation. The strongest locations survive. The weaker locations disappear. And unfortunately, the communities most affected are often rural areas, smaller towns, and lower-income neighborhoods. This is part of a larger change happening throughout the food system. At the beginning of the supply chain, food production and processing are becoming more concentrated. At the end of the supply chain, grocery retail is also becoming more concentrated. Fewer companies are controlling larger parts of the system. For consumers, this means fewer choices and less local access. A grocery store closure may seem like a business decision on paper, but for the people living nearby, it can mean something much bigger. It can mean longer drives, higher prices, fewer healthy options, more dependence on whatever food is available nearby. This is why preparing ahead matters. A pantry is not about fear. It is about stability. Having extra basics at home means you have options when prices rise, when weather affects transportation, when a store closes, or when getting to a grocery store becomes more difficult. Building a pantry does not have to happen overnight. It can happen slowly. A few extra cans, some rice and pasta, beans, flour, frozen foods, shelf-stable proteins, the everyday items your family already uses. Preparedness is about creating breathing room. Because we do not always know what changes are coming. A grocery store that has been part of a community for decades can disappear faster than people expect. The most important lesson from these closures is not that every store will disappear. It is that relying completely on a single source for something as important as food can leave families vulnerable. Communities need grocery stores. Families need access to affordable food. But until we know what the future holds, having a stocked and organized pantry gives us one thing we can control: the ability to take care of ourselves and the people we love. The grocery landscape is changing. The question is not whether we notice it. The question is whether we are prepared for it.